Here we go. So you're here because we're going to talk about evaluating your personal branding today. And so you know a little bit more about what we're going to do. Oops, sorry. We are planning to look a bit into who I am. Then we're looking into who you are, why personal branding actually matters. And then we go into 5 steps that can help you evaluate your personal branding and bring it on to the next level. That means we are looking on long-term frameworks, which means you might have to rewatch the recording. Personal branding is not something you can do within half an hour in this session. It's a long-term thing. You will have to over and over engage in self-awareness, but there will be some workshop actions in this webinar. So please get some pen and paper ready to get the most out of this session. And then at the end, we have a Q&A. So please drop all your questions that you have into the chat function and we can look at them a bit later. Yes, please. Raised hand. Samuel? Likely a wrong hand up. So I'm continue with, who am I? Hi, I'm Katja. Everyone calls me Kay. Very easy to remember with a single letter. I'm a design leader and creative manager, and that falls under, depending on which company or context I'm working at. It could be I work as a design manager, it could be a head of design, a head of creative, a design director or creative director. I have over 18 years industry experience, 9 of it in leadership and management. And as you already see from the job titles I have, I come with a very long linear career journey. I've worked in-house, agency, freelance side, was self-employed. And throughout those 18 years I worked across various industries, channels, and expertise. And I literally had to reposition myself on an ongoing basis, because what you often hear is you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. And I never agreed with this. I think it's just the curiosity I have and the ability to tap into any market really fast. So I had to do this repositioning to be very clear in explaining people why I'm jumping around and why I have this career that I have. And I led teams for brands like Informed, Courier Media, and Albright, and also worked with brands like MailChimp, Samsung, Nike, or Nivea. Now, who are you? This is the question of why you're actually here today. And it would be amazing if you can stop dropping some numbers into the chat functions, what relates most to you. So I think you're either here, 1, because you have no idea who you are and how to start with personal branding. 2, because you're stuck, either because you're very good at procrastinating, there might be a lack of time, or imposter syndrome or self-doubt is hindering you. You might be already working on an update, but you want more input, or you're already really great at this and you are here for the curiosity. And it's interesting to see being stuck. Some people working on updates already, working on updates with exclamation marks. Someone stuck between stuck, update, and great. I hear you. So you see already you're in very good company with people who are exactly at the same position. So if you need an accountability group afterwards, connect with the people in this group. They are going to be your people. So what is a personal brand actually? And I come from a very simple origin. I think most people who do personal branding take this way too far in explaining. For me, it is one thing. A personal brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. And that's the only thing you need to know about this. It is not entirely what you can control all the time, but is how you come across and how people will react to you when you're not around. And personal branding will obviously help you deciding of how you come across. Why does personal branding matters? Well, you will come across a lot of challenges with branding, personal branding. If you don't have it, you might come across as not authentic. It will be much harder to stand out. It is harder to build trust, and you might come across as less transparent. Also, if you don't have a personal branding, you might have inconsistencies, for example, in your messaging, which means you're giving mixed signals to your audience that you're talking to, or you're very focused on short-term thinking, be it either with a lack of time or a lack of motivation, which means you just do something for the moment but are not thinking far enough into the future. And one of the big challenges is as well that personal branding has to be around storytelling, because it is 10% more effective than actual facts, but you need to do quite a lot of self-work to figure out what your story is. The good thing is, and the advantages of a personal brand will be that you have much more authenticity in the market. You'll be able to stand out. You'll be authoritative and trustful. And listen, people will have opinions about you, about your work all the time. But personal branding can help you steer that conversation for exactly when you're not in the room. So you have, again, some control at least over how you want to be perceived by other people. Personal branding also boosts your profile. It makes you stand out as an expert. You have much more visibility, and it offers and opens up much more and higher opportunities. And what you're working on here with the big advantage is, if you're future oriented, you will have long-term success, and you will, with the more years, actually have less to do because you'll set the groundwork, and it feels much more like a holistic and natural progression. But what you need to input for personal branding is you have to be ready for deep dive into self-awareness. You need that visionary thinking. It's not just about who you are now, but who you want to be in the future. And you need to put in the time and the effort and the work to do regular check-ins. If you pivot, how are you going to adapt? What's the evolvement looking like? So personal branding is ongoing work in process. It will never be finished in that sense. And you have to put in time to celebrate whatever you try to achieve. Once you've done it, celebrate it, because it's a never-ending experience. You need these explorations of celebration as well, while going through all of it. Now, there are actually 5 steps that I find very useful when I work on personal brand evaluation for myself to find out who you are. And the ones we are going through today is 1, assessing your current brand, 2, your values, 3, the positioning, 4, the 5 whys, and number 5, being visible. And we're going to jump into number 1 very soon. If you don't have pen and paper with you right now, I would get that, so you can just have some kickstart the conversation with yourself on paper while we go through this. And especially if you're a procrastinator, it's the best way to just start with a few words on paper, and you feel after this session like you actually have gone quite a step forward in doing your personal brand work. So, number 1, assess your current brand. You do exactly what you do in any creative job or in every new role you're going into, especially as a freelancer. You do research. It's all about the what you do. You have to get all the data about yourself into one place. It's about your career. What's your work history, your education? What are you a member of? What certifications do you have? All the skills. What are your soft skills, your hard skills? What are your transferable skills? Write down as well what points in your career journey are unique to you and might be not as common or comparable to other people. Then go stalk yourself in that sense. Do research and Google your name and see what comes up on Google, but not just on Google. Go on every search platform, go on DuckDuckGo, Ecosia, Bing, see how you look different in different platforms. And another great thing that I love doing is asking AI to summarize who you are. Give all the data to ChatGPT, ask them to analyze what they're doing, even ask them of how they would think your brand positioning looks like. What can they tell you? And there is a fantastic AI tool. It's an AI FAQ generator where you can put your website in and it generates an FAQ for your website, which I personally find really helpful because it literally will tell you what the important things are, at least from an AI perspective. And it's a great insight into, okay, this is actually not really explaining what I'm doing as a creative, for example. And then you have a very good starting point of how you might have to change your messaging. And you also have to figure out who your target audience is, because it is not everyone. Figure out who you want to talk to, what they can get out of it, who are the competitors on the market, and just have an overview over who's around there and who you're talking to. The second thing you can look at is your strength. The strength is the how you do it. And it's asking questions like, what are you good at? Can you write down all your strengths, your main skills and your talents? What problems are you exceptionally good at solving, and what sets you apart from others who do the same thing that you do? And take your pen and paper now and just quickly write down 10 seconds max, 3 strengths that you think are crucial to your own person, be it professional or from a personal perspective. And I would ask you to do this now. Fabulous. So see, you're already fully into brand positioning yourself. This is one you can do later. It's called a passion skill matrix, and it's fabulous in analyzing the passion side of things, what you like doing versus what you don't like doing, and your skill side of things, what you can do, what you're good at and not good at. Again, think of this very holistically from a personal, professional perspective, because then you see the areas that overlap as well and that are very excited and likely more aligned with the purpose you have. Where you want to go when you add words into those 4 different buckets of growth, failure, default, and magic, you want to figure out what's in that top right corner, in the magic corner, where the skills that you're good at align with the stuff you really love doing. And then you have a very much better idea of the stuff you want to do more of and the things you should sell more as well in your brand positioning, because you just know you love doing this and want to do more and more and more. When you look at purpose, it's about the why you do things. Think about, why does your brand exist? What is your motivation? What is your unique journey? And there is this fantastic Japanese concept called ikigai that translates as a reason for being and helps you discover what is important to you to live a fulfilling life. And this is why I think is so important in personal branding. It's not just about the facts and what you like doing in a professional context. For me, it's purely intrinsical, holistically, personal, professional life, especially in creatives. It overlaps anyway. So finding this ikigai is a very nice way to figure out what you love, what you're good at, how you can get paid for what you love, but also have a much purpose-led approach to what the world needs. And you work through the areas from the outside in. So you add, for example, on the top, what you love, words in everything that you love, and on the left, what you're good at, writing everything that you're good at. You should be able to do this much easier because you have done the research bit before. Then in the passion section, add in the stuff that overlaps. And you do this then constantly moving forward, and whatever overlaps, again, you narrow this down to the very core, and hopefully you find your ikigai and your purpose that will help you move along with a much clearer insight. Okay, this is the reason why I do what I'm doing, and this is also what sets me apart to other people. Now, once you've got your purpose, it's important to focus on goals as well. It's the way you want to go. Think about professional goals. For example, What salary do you want? What culture? What people do you want to work with? What, again, are your personal goals? And be very clear on how success looks like. Add some KPIs in there so you can actually then again celebrate once you've gone through. And here's your pen and paper time again, 10 seconds. Write down one personal goal and one professional goal that comes to mind right now. Brilliant. And this is the part that most people don't want to do, but it's the most effective. You have to ask other people about this. Ideally, you get feedback from like 3 people and ask friends, family, and colleagues. Make that pool of people very varied. And you can do this very easily and just send them a text or whatever is easiest for you and ask them to send 3 words that describe you. You can ask them to elaborate a bit more. For example, maybe some of them will be very suitable as a LinkedIn testimonial for later, so you have a double win-win in this. But it is important that you get to ask other people what they think of you, and don't be too afraid. You most of the time get very nice comments back, so it's a great personal little kick for the ego as well, and better for your understanding of how you come across for exactly when you're not in the room. And again, take 10 seconds here, write down 3 names that you can reach out to after this webinar. Brilliant. Now, going into values. Values is my favorite thing. It is the core principles that guide my decision and action as well. It's the non-negotiables in that sense. And you can have personal and professional values. You can mix them together, whatever you want. But having values has a higher impact because you do feel more grounded. You will make more connections. You will come across much more authentic and with a clear purpose. And it will help you much better to make very clear decisions because they are rooted in a value-based approach. Now, there's 2 areas we can look at. One is the quick fix solution in that sense, the gut decisions for personal and professional values. And I ask you now to write down 3 values that come to mind, be it, for example, stability, love, power, self-fulfillment, finance, whatever you can think of. Just take 10 seconds, write down 3 values. And then after the webinar, you can go into the brain decisions. These are actually going through values on a long-term basis. You will see on the next slide a massive list of values. You can add more to it if they're missing, but the idea is that you take all of them, you cut it down to the 20 that suits you most. You leave them on the side, wait a few days, you come back, cut them down to 10, go away, come back, cut them down to 5, and then ideally cut them down to 3. And I know most people or businesses have 5 values, but people will not be able to remember it. 3 is the magic number that you can easily jot down somewhere or store easier in your brain. And listen, sometimes you will have different personal and professional values. So you might have 6. Sometimes it's 3 because they're combining very well, or you have 3 and 2. Do whatever is right for you in that sense and what feels aligned with your values. And this is an overview of all the values that I work with as well that you can look at. So feel free to screenshot this, or I can send it across later. Also, if you can just think of one more value, it'd be very useful because I want to get this number up to 270. This 269 values really bugs me since yesterday. Now, you got your value, you got done your research. Now it's time to position yourself. And how you can do that in a very easy format is with a positioning statement. So you look at I am, the what you do, the I help, who you do stuff for, like people or businesses, and to do or get is the unique impact, USP, or everything that makes you stand out. Think about your values again, because they will be heavily influenced in this. And that might look like this. I am a growth marketeer. I help early startups get funded. I'm a creative director. I help design studios reach global audiences. What you want to be with this is very clear and concise. Sometimes people put a bit more personal information in this as well, but you have to be clear that the messaging doesn't dilute and you come across with conflicting information, because people will get very confused very easily. And you can use this as elevator pitches as well, and in networking environments. And the sentence you create, you want to get to a point where people go, this is super interesting, tell me more. And this is a tricky one. I will only give you 20 seconds for this, but just gut feeling on this is really important, because I know also from experience, you overthink so much when writing repositioning statements. So for 20 seconds, just write one, whatever comes to mind first. You can change it again in the future. Fabulous. Once you have your positioning statement, we're going into the 5 why. You take the positioning statement that you had before, and we're digging really deep into those layers to see if the statement is authentic, strong, and unique enough to what you want to do. And the 5-time why framework is, by the way, really fabulous for any research or anything you want more in depth to what you're doing. And how this looks like is you take the positioning statement and putting into the 3 areas. So I'm a growth marketeer. I help early stage startups get funded. And then you go through questions, the question why 5 times. So for example, I've done this for the second bit. You start with, why do you help early startups? Because I like shaping brands from the very beginning. Why do you like shaping brands from the very beginning? Because there is more room for experimentation. Why do you like more room for experimentation? Because this is where true innovation happens. Why do you like true innovation? Because it's how you can create change at scale. Why do you want to create change at scale? Because I'm able to impact as many people as possible. And you see how the last why of impacting people is a completely different idea and purpose than just helping businesses get funded. So you might then have to tweak that area again of really digging down of not just what you're doing, but why you're doing things as well. And then you just go through all of this area, do the 5 whys, and see how you can tweak things if the positioning statement is right. Or you might go down to information here that you can then repurpose, for example, writing a biography or a really great tagline for Instagram, for example. And once you've done this, it's all about being visible. You're basically done now. You have a brilliant amount of information about your brand self together, but you have to tell the world about it and about you, because if you don't tell others, who will? No one has ever gone anything out of silence when it comes to personal branding. And once you've worked through these steps 1 to 4, you should be now in a position where you can answer these 4 questions very quickly. It's the who you are, what your aspirations are, how do you want to be perceived, and you should be able to say a big yes to, is my brand authentic to myself? And here are a few insights into how you can become more visible. So think about your profile. Do you have a website? Do you need a portfolio deck? How does your CV look? How do you come across on other platforms? It's the visual side. How does your headshot look? Do you need new headshots that look much more professional? Do you need color codes or color palettes integrated in everything? Do you need specific assets that come across all different platforms? Do you, for example, work with the specific fonts in all of them? And from the visual side, you do not need a logo, so don't worry about that at all. But think about the social side. Which platforms are most useful for you? You likely don't need to be across all of them, but which ones are the ones you want to leverage? How does your profile banner stand out? If you talk to people, what are your content pillars? What do you want to talk about? And when it comes to copy, what is your tone of voice? Make that clear decision of, oh, maybe I'm very bold and outgoing and loud, or maybe I am very quiet and considered in my brand tone of voice thinking. So make these decisions. And again, you can evolve and adapt and change, but be clear for the time being of what you want to focus on. Write your headlines, so you know what your title is, what your main skills are, what's your unique USP and value proposition. Also great is just write your biographies and about section, have a short and a long version, especially if you work with third parties. Say you're writing for someone, they always require a bio at some point. So if you have that set from the get-go, much easier further down the line. And you might even have your own principles. You work as a design leader, so we always set design principles with the team, but it's a nice guidance again, like values of what's important to you. For example, being trustful, I put well-being first, or whatever comes to your mind, you can put that in there. And also think about, how can you become a thought leader? Do you want to speak at places? How can you volunteer to have the most impact in what you're doing? So there's loads and loads of different areas of how you can make your own brand much more visible. And remember, your brand evolves with you. You will have to check in often and re-evaluate. I'll do these same exercises at least once a year just to check in if things change, also understanding why things have changed, how I have to pivot again. And they do take a bit longer in the first time you're doing it, the second time much shorter. And at some point, it's the self-awareness that just kicks in, and you'll very much be aware of how you move through these steps on an ongoing basis. And remember this, when you do branding for yourself, you have to be yourself because everyone else is already taken. And I stop talking now and take all your questions. Thank you. Thank you. Eva, you got your hand up.
That was my excited clap with the wrong
button. Let me stop sharing for the moment. Get more personal with my face here. All right. I'm just going through all the messages in the chat. Hello, fellow non-linear career journey. We're always there together. Ada.
Hey, nice to see you live. And thank you for a really great presentation. It's a lot of knowledge for sure, but you seem so calm about it, and it's very reassuring. I actually have one question, which was the main reason I joined today, and I'm very curious about your input here. When building your personal brand, which is very much based on our professional life, is it okay to be very private still and like not input any personal notes, not write anything about our, family situation and stuff like this? Because I often see that this is what people do to kind of like make it more relatable, more personal, etc. And it's something that I feel very uncomfortable about. So yeah, what's your take on this?
I mean, that's your personal brand. If you're uncomfortable with it, don't do it. But it's an interesting thing, especially if you go into the values, because you likely have stuff where you go, this is so important to me in my personal and professional life, that you can tweak in a way like, for example, a LinkedIn post and it's all about stability and might be personal stability or personal safety, which you can easily come across or write about in the sense of, oh, from a business perspective, this is amazing, but it's also very important to me on a personal level.
That's true.
And you don't need to go in depth and explain yourself what it means, but there are like this, for me at least, very top level surface thing where you can just say, this is personally important to me, without having to show pictures of your family gatherings.
No, absolutely. But the thing is that just recently someone posted something on LinkedIn about the value or question about women changing their name after getting married. And I have very strong opinions about it. And I was already like, oh, I'm just going to write something. But I was like, no, but this is also then kind of an information about my situation, which is, again, this part of my private life, has nothing to do with my professional life. So I stopped myself. But I also see that it is, for a lot of people, a huge part of their professional life, how they deal with their personal situation, how they deal with, for example, working remotely, with having kids at home and stuff like this. And I wonder if when someone is completely cutting this part off their professional profile, it doesn't make them look like robots, or that they don't have this personal connection then with their, I don't know, clients. Or
I mean, it is a tricky thing of how much you want to share, and maybe someone else in the call has really great advice, so always feel free to just jump in with any idea as well. But for me, it's always a thing of, I'm in this position quite often as well, where we're like, oh my God, I just have to respond to this. And then the question is always, wait, why do I want to respond? Because I'm angry, because I'm frustrated.
Exactly. Yeah, this is another part of it. Absolutely.
Exactly. But it's often where I go, actually, no. And again, I put this based back to values. It's like, no, I really stand for this. I'm taking the fear away that an absolute shitstorm could come my way because I have this opinion, and I just go with it. But it's my value. I stand for this, so I'll say my piece. So it's quite, maybe in a way, where you can think of it is with the tone of voice for your brand as well. How do you want to come across? Are you the bold, shouty one, or the more considerate, more in the background person? And once you know this for you, you have more of an idea of how you want to react. And yeah, maybe check in of as well, why you want to respond. Is it because I don't want just another opinion, I don't want my personal stuff on there, or is it just purely fear of how other people could react to it? And then does that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is even the third part of it, right? Because there's like a personal sharing, and there is also the opinions sharing, which is like on top of it. But yeah, thanks a lot. It's very insightful. Thank you.
And it's not easy. I mean, Instagram is so much more, for example, people sharing personal stuff, whereas LinkedIn, it's still this discussion of how much personal stuff should actually go on there. So
absolutely, yeah.
But maybe that's your next post. What they think about it. Maybe you get something really exciting back from it.
Yeah, maybe. Thank you very much.
No worries. Mick.
Yo, sorry.
Hey.
Hi. Great presentation, by the way. I have a questions that basically echo what Ada just asked. So with my personal branding, I currently position myself as like purpose driven. And one of my mentor, when I talk to her, is that she encouraged me to talk about my background. I'm from Vietnam, and I came to the UK like 13 years ago. And then she pointed out, well, that's amazing journey. You know, not many people relocate themselves from the other side of the world. And on one hand, I find that is my background shape how I see things that matter to me and in my creative practice, like diversity and different perspective. Well, Vietnam is a very communist country, and people think of the things in different ways spiritually, and the way they do things. So there's like nuances of design and cultures that I think inform a lot of my design practice. However, a part of me also feel like as a person, I'm quite sick of people asking me where you actually from. Is the question that I come across every single day. So it's a bugbear for me as a person, and I still haven't really figured it out. So I'm just worried that if I incorporate a part of me that I haven't even able to navigate it into my already very complex professional branding, it's just going to be like a big mess. And that is the reason why I haven't really posted anything for the last who knows how many months now.
It's a good one and it's a tricky one. And it's so interesting. This feedback from now doesn't come from me. I heard this in another chat I was involved in, where someone else went, it's like, I don't want to say my life story either. It's so not important. But you can turn this in a way that it becomes a very quick, easy fix and a strength for you, in the sense of, in the CV, you just write, I'm a Vietnamese-born, London-based creative. That's the whole story for the moment, because it tells everyone, for example, who hires or who looks at you, that you're already bilingual, at least, that you have another cultural heritage, that you bring so much more to the plate than anyone else, without you having to go in, and this is my entire life story, and this is what makes me different. And I found that a very nice input of just going, I'm that born, that based, full stop. And in the future, you might have an epiphany where you go, actually, I want to write about this, and go in there. But if it's not right at the moment, it's like, don't force yourself. Does that help?
Yeah, sound good. Yeah, I guess it's just not sure if it is a part of prejudice, because most very recent I worked with one of the client, and they very naively just say, I really don't want to work with Vietnamese. I was like, but I've been working with you for months and I'm Vietnamese.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like there would be also that burden of external reputation, that you kind of like make an active decision whether you take that on or not, or I take that on or not. And a part of me was like, I want to distance myself from all of the extra layers of this complication, in terms of whether it's like political view and all these things. And that was, I think, I guess I just wasn't in a place where I had enough confidence or energy to take that on.
Which is okay as well. I guess that's the whole self-branding as well, that you just become aware of, do you know what, I could go out with this right now, but I don't want to. It doesn't feel right. You check in again maybe 3 months later, and there might be a different avenue where you go, yes, actually, now I want to focus on this and make my profile a bit more about me and my origins. And then 3 months later you go again, I've done this now. I'm not happy with this. Now I'm just going to be purely focusing on networking, or whatever you want to do. But it's this goal setting as well, and tapping in with your values and the purpose with the ikigai, to really understand, okay, that's where I am now, that's where I want to be in the future, but take the self-awareness to just go step by step. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If it feels challenging but you're up for it, do it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Thank you.
Welcome. Something in the chat, could you please share the values list again, as I missed it? Add me on LinkedIn, I can get you the whole screenshot across. That would be easier, or wait for the recording.
I think we also have one question from Nayanika in the chat. So could you have a look at this, please, Katja?
Yeah. Question is, should we be presenting a very cohesive and curated brand on different social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, etc.? Or is it fine to not overly curate content with a fixed color palette, typography, etc.? Good one. It depends what you're doing. I say if you're likely more of a graphic designer, you might want to add a bit more of visual identity in there. Again, it doesn't need to be overly curated, but you might have one asset that you just use across all, or you have one brand color that you use that goes across everything. That will help a little bit, but it needs to fit for you and what's right for you. I hope that was enough. Do you have time for one more question with Samuel?
I think so, yeah, as long as you have time, please.
Yeah, I'm good.
Hi, Katja. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the awesome presentation. My first request is it possible for us to get the slide as well after the call? I think that would be great if that's an opportunity for that.
I might be able to make this happen, yeah.
Thank you very much.
No
Then
worries.
The question that I have is kind of, can I say personal? Right. So let me just like give an example of myself, right? So that I just make it clear. I work for a company. I run an agency by the side, and I also engage in other community activities. Right. So three things, or let me say three buckets. The first one is I work for a company as a product designer. Right. I also have an agency where a marketing agency, let me put it like that I work with some other professionals, and I also engage in community activities like events and a whole lot of things. Now, talking about my personal brand, I've always been looking at it in a way of how exactly can I position myself for these three things, right? For example, should I focus more on my professional career, or should I focus on, or how am I going to manage it with my own brand as well, right? And also probably my community engagement. I don't know if you just have anything to say to that, and probably something that could help me in that regard. Thank you very much.
No worries. And great question. You do so much. It's so amazing with product marketing and events. And I think for you, it would be really curious to see how your ikigai would look, because you can bring in all three areas into one and figure out what the main components are. So maybe there is a way of actually bring it all together, see what the main components are, and how you can then talk about all of these things in one go. And it sounds like you're one of the multi-hyphen creatives that do a lot. So it will be, yeah, interesting to know when you go to like the brand positioning of what your core offering is. And it's very hard for me to say to you right now what you should focus on, because that's the self-awareness exercises you have to do for yourself. But I think there is a way of finding the common ground, because especially with product marketing and events, there are red threads that 100% follow through. And once you have that, you're probably in a really good position to have the exact content you can position yourself around and really make it clear to other people that you are this person who can do all of these things. And that's the amazingness of your brand and yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. I think you're on mute, Eva.
I am indeed. Well, we just have one more question.
Go for it.
Kat?
Hello, hi. I have a question about visual representation of your brand, or rather, actually, no, let me start again. Basically, I do motion design and illustration, and sometimes I find that I need to have a very specific look for people to know exactly what I'm doing. But on the other hand, I also like doing like sometimes very opposite look. So I have, let's say, a more illustrative style, which is a bit more, not very detailed, but a bit more detailed than a minimalist look. But I also like doing a minimalist look, and sometimes I don't know where to fit that. in my brand, so because it feels almost like opposite. So I don't know, what would you suggest, like doing to handle this situation where your interests are a little bit broader, but you still need to have a personal brand?
It's a good one, and it's very close to what Samuel was asking as well, of just having
Yeah,
so much amazing thing
exactly.
you can go for. And again, the matrix I showed with the passion and the skills would be very interesting for you to figure out what you really want to do. And to be honest, to having a broad spectrum and being able to do all of it is fantastic, because let's face it, especially as a freelancer as well, if you go somewhere else that has an existing branding, you need to be able to adapt. And people want to work with people who can do minimal to very eccentric.
Oh, interesting.
So I would say it is a great USP from you to be able to do all of it, to have an interest in a lot of stuff. And that can be a USP. You just have to be very clear about, for example, why you like these things. Maybe, again, it comes into more personal stories of that's the background or the inspiration that propels you to do lots of different things. And that's completely fine. Whatever you love doing and want to do more of, that's what you're going to do. I wouldn't put myself into one corner just because you think that's what other people or brands want from you, because you know you're going to miss out on a lot of exciting opportunities from exactly the people who go, oh, so you can actually do a lot of adaptable things, which is great, which is really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting. Because once I was told, like for my showreel, to only show more of the specific style so people can understand what I'm doing. But yeah, maybe that's not that's not necessary.
No,
Okay.
do what you like. And especially with the showreel, you have to match it. You can do motion, you can explain storytelling so much better than us people or myself who can just do statics. So it's a nice way of taking people on a storytelling journey, going, hey, look, I can do minimal, but hey, I can also do this. And
oh, that's an interesting approach to present it as a story as well.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone, once again. Take a well-deserved break for something good to eat, and hope to see you all at the events next week.